Well, we can now bring in Kweku Ansasari, who is Dean of the Mount Crest University College. He's also former director of the Ghana School of Law. Thank you so much for joining us here, Mr. Ansasari. But this position held by Justice Atuguba is something you have also, told me on hot issues. But then it brings the question of whether or not we should start to take a second look at who makes appointments for the Chief Justice, or how Chief Justices are appointed in the country. Oh, it appears that we have lost him over the telephone. But we can take a look at, other events that occurred over the weekend. In the wake of ongoing public discussions surrounding Ghana's judiciary, former President John Kufuor has weighed in on the matter. Addressing selected journalists, he expressed concern about the frequent criticism directed at the judiciary, warning that such actions could erode public confidence in the country's constitution.
Criticisms may be what may come could be a mistress and they say Supreme Court. Yes, as I say, governs the Constitution is supreme and she shall enforce Republic sanity. Constitution and it's just say, but beyond interpretation and now which has your constitutional meaning. For Supreme Court. Not Supreme Court, no, interest and simple.
We talk of checks and balances. Some also say separation of powers, and I subscribe to that. Even though we are in different institutions, if yours is not going well, I should be able to tell you to prevent the excesses. However, I urge caution and thoughtfulness regarding some of the criticisms being raised. The Constitution is supreme, and the same Constitution empowers the Supreme Court to interpret disputed clauses or articles in the Constitution. Once the court delivers a ruling, it must be respected. It is important to note that the court does not actively seek cases, rather, individuals bring matters before it.
I'm saying, and then you're free one, up and down. And as I say, you take constitution.
Let's make another attempt to speak to former director of the Ghana School of Law, Kweku Ansasari. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us here, Mr. Ansasari. I was saying that the position of Justice Atuguba about the empaneling of the justices and the appointment of a Chief Justice is one you have intimated before on hot issues, but it also brings the question as to whether or not we should take a second look at how Chief Justices are appointed in this country. Your take on that?
Thank you.
Your call has been put on hold.
Oh dear.
Please wait.
Oh dear. Listen, we'll fix that connection and then bring back that story. You're live here on NewsCentral. Our first story has been on the Supreme Court empaneling in the recent case between Alexander Penyo-Markin, the leader of the NDC caucus in Parliament, the Attorney General and Speaker of Parliament. We can try that connection again. And I was asking Mr. Ansasari whether or not we should take a second look at the procedure used in appointing the Chief Justice. No, I don't think that's going to work. But Kweku Ansasari is former director of the Ghana School of Law. I was hoping to get his opinion on how the Chief Justice is selected on the back of comments that he himself has made about, the empaneling of justices of the Supreme Court. Younger justices or judges are picked ahead of the senior members. Some are calling that it's time we go back to that practice. But it also raised the question about whether or not the president should not be the one appointing Chief Justices. I'll give it one last try just before we move on to Parliament with Mawena. Mr. Ansasari, hopefully you are back and back for good this time. Should we now take a second look, revise who appoints the Chief Justice?
Yes, thank you. I was saying that under the Constitution, it is the President of the Republic who nominates persons, for appointment onto the Supreme Court. And according to Justice Atuguba, it is the same president who appoints, and therefore it is like the same person being, the nominator, the appointee, the one who confirms. So Parliament merely vets, as part of the process. So what I have advocated in the past is that the hello.
I can hear you.
The nomination process should be modified. I'm saying that the Article 1464 that mandates the president, to nominate should be modified by removing the word until a person is appointed. When those words are removed, then it will be a straightforward, the most senior justice of the Supreme Court shall act and is subsequently confirmed as the Chief Justice. What can also be done is for the current Supreme Court, all the members of the Supreme Court should sit on the case test, and they will now make a pronouncement to the effect that whenever a vacancy occurs to the office of the Chief Justice, the most senior justice of the Supreme Court shall fill the vacancy. It must come from them. When we leave it to the politicians, they will never change it because it's self-serving. It suits them, fine, and therefore they will not. So it is up to the Supreme Court justices themselves. They know who are seniors and they know who are juniors. So let all of them sit and bank. When they sit and bank and they make the pronouncement, it shall become a convention that whenever a vacancy occurs, the most senior justice of the Supreme Court shall occupy and fill the vacancy, period. If it doesn't come from them and they leave it to the politicians, this problem will never go away.
I see. So let's talk about these problems. If we change the mode of appointment, what problems are we hoping to solve with that? I'm asking, if we change the mode of appointment, what problems are we likely to solve with that?
If all the justices sit. Hello?
Yes.
Are you asking if all the justices sit on a case?
No. I'm asking, once we have managed to change or revise the mode of appointment, what are the problems that we are hoping that it will solve?
That will require an amendment, to the Constitution, and the process is cumbersome. There are certain provisions of the Constitution that will require a referendum. And as I'm saying, the politicians will interfere with the system, so we'll not get the result that we want. But if it is coming from among the justices themselves, let all the Supreme Court judges sit and bank and make a pronouncement that acts from a certain date. Whenever a vacancy occurs, the most senior justice of the Supreme Court shall fill the vacancy. It must come from them.
Indeed. Mr. Sansari, so what I was asking is, I think that the biggest problem that has been identified with the current mode of appointment is the consent or perception of biases that the Chief Justice will hold because they are appointed by the President, and many of those on the bench are also appointed by through the same procedure. So the consent then is the biases that come along with that. Do you think that once we change the mode and use what you have proposed, it will deal with the biases or the perception of biases that people hold at this point?
You see, if the current procedure is not modified, the President will continue to appoint persons who otherwise might not have been suitably qualified. With the legal profession, seniority counts. We respect our seniors, and therefore, looking at the problems confronting the court, in our forward march towards democracy, attaining the democracy. What we ought to do now is not to leave it to the politicians. If we can fix the problem ourselves, why not? Let us fix the problem. One way of fixing the problem is to fall on the justices themselves, because they can interpret that constitutional provision to say that what it actually means is that the most senior justice of the Supreme Court are occupied. But because of the way until a person is appointed, that until a person is appointed is what the politicians, particularly the president, incumbent president, tiptoe around, to take and pound the part contained in the Constitution, so as to achieve their political goals. And I'm suggesting that don't let us leave it, into the hands of the president again.
Indeed.
Let us call upon the justices in the national interest to sacrifice their parochial and individual interest.
Mr. Sasare, I'm afraid we're out of time. We'll have to leave our conversation here, but thank you so much. Kwekwan Sasare is Dean of Mountcrest University College, and he's also former director of the Ghana School of Law. I want to show you what appointments have looked like for the Supreme Court justices over the years. In 2020, President Akufo-Addo appointed Yoni Kolendi. In 2022, John Kufuor, well, I'm going to skip that. Because Samuel Adlibu Asiedu was appointed in... You know what? We'll skip that. We'll come back to that a little later. In the meantime, we can turn attention to other stories.
Other stories, we're taking you to Parliament, to be specific, where the minority there has called on President Akufo-Addo to establish an independent commission of inquiry to investigate the alleged distribution of contaminated rice to senior high schools across the country. The opposition MPs, led by North Tongue MP Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, argue that the Ministry of Education cannot be trusted to conduct an impartial probe into the matter. My colleague Noble Crosby Annan, he was at that news conference, is joining us right now in studio with a bit more details with regards all of this, the backstory, and a bit more as to this latest expose by the North Tongue MP Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa and the subsequent clarifications that have been coming through from the Education Ministry, who say that they will investigate the said matter. Like I mentioned, Crosby in studio with me right now. Crosby, let's start with the backstory to this, how we've got here and why this call is coming through from the NDC MPs.
So it began last week when Okudzeto-Ablakwa made these allegations that some 22,000 bags of expired rice had been repackaged and given to various senior high schools in the country for onward distribution. So there's a wholesale center in one of the schools, and then other schools come to collect it. So according to him, these foods have been expired, and it was done. It was as a result of a conspiracy between the National Food Buffer Stock Company and a company known as Lamens Investment Africa to carry out these services, as he's calling it. So he alleges that the buffer stock company, the facility in Kumasi in the Ashanti region, was used to repackage the rice brought in from India. And these rice, he says, they expired in December 2023, but they were repackaged and called locally produced rice, as in made in Ghana rice, but they were without expiry date. So these are the claims that he is making. He says that the rice has been consumed by the students already, and some have already begun reacting to what it talks about, the various complications, health-related complications that it can come as a result of they ingesting this contaminated rice, Eric.
And like you mentioned, that's the backstory. They've been making a number of demands, some of which we've been mentioning. What have they been saying at this news conference? Well,
essentially, they're calling for a presidential commission of inquiry into this expired rice saga. So you know that the Education Ministry, after the news broke, said they were investigating the development, but he says the ministry cannot be trusted because he says the ministry is now speaking for the company in question. So it was a conspiracy, and the ministry that is involved and this conspiracy cannot be seen investigating itself. So he wants the president to begin a commission of inquiry to investigate the development. He's also asking that there be a national health screening for all the students who may have consumed this rice. So talking about the effects that it could generate, a lot of long-term health implications of the students, compromising their immune systems, a lot of deficiencies and all of that. So he wants that there be screening by the Ghana Medical Association. He wants them to be involved in screening these senior high school students so that they can, be sure whether there are any challenges to their health whatsoever.
Let's hear from Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa.
This scandal broke. Public health officials will have announced a major screening exercise because the doctors have told us about the medium to long-term implications of consuming this insect-infested and high-fat acidity contaminated rice. But here we are, they are all playing ostrich. The Ministry of Education, which should open its doors for this health screening to be done, has now metamorphosed into a staunch defender of Lamens, a company that has engaged in criminality and has admitted in writing. So we would like to use this medium to wake up respectfully all those institutions, particularly the Ghana Health Service, the Ministry of Health, who have been silent on this matter so far. There is the need for an urgent national medical screening exercise. We will endorse that, we will welcome that, and even if this House must approve funding for that, we will gladly support any exercise in that regard. So it's a very important question.
And so that's the Norton MP. Did they answer the question of what next should the president fail to put up this presidential inquiry commission?
Exactly so. So they are not relenting in the effort to seek justice or to seek corrections to this. Amongst the things that they are asking for, that the president cannot remain silent. They are demanding the immediate arrest and the prosecution of the directors of Lamens Investment Africa Limited, as well as the board and management of the National Food Buffer Stock Company. And they are also asking that the Education Ministry is conducting all of this be investigated. They themselves are also petitioning some other state institutions to ensure that the right thing is done.
Right then, Crosby, many thanks for those details. That's my colleague Noble Crosby Annan providing details there for us in relation to the latest from the quarters of the NDC minority with regards the contaminated rice saga and the back and forth that has ensued over the last few days between the Education Ministry and the Norton MP, to be specific, a subject matter that we will continue to follow and provide details of for you. But for now, we can bring you some other matters.
Indeed. Now, more than 300 enrolled nurses of the 2020 year group across the country who were asked by the Ghana Health Service to report to the Greater Accra Regional Health Directorate for postings have been left stranded. This was after the Directorate only picked 30 of the nurses. Stanley Nible, who has been following this development, is joining us from the Accra Regional Health Directorate with some updates on the story. Stanley, good afternoon. What are the concerns of these nurses? What have you picked up on the ground?
So, Kemini, we are talking about these enrolled nurses. These are nurses that have actually sat and written their licensure exams and duly passed. But for the past 4 years, these nurses have been at home. They only had the opportunity to laugh through the storm and heave a sigh of relief when they had the information a couple of weeks ago that the Ghana Health Service has actually activated their portal for them to register so that they can be absorbed into the system. But today they got to the Greater Accra Regional Health Directorate in their numbers, and they were only disappointed to be told that only out of the 3,000 out of the over 300 nurses that showed up at the health directorates, only 30 of them were able to be selected to go through the process for employment so that they can be absorbed into the system. And so for them, they have been so disappointed in the whole system that was actually open for them to apply. And so they have been sharing their thoughts with me when I was there.
Let's take a listen.
It was last week that we had a message containing our posting that we should submit our documents into the health director for further posting and then placement. So the date was stated on 18th and then 19th. So we decided, we slept here last night. I came around 12. So we were giving numbers. I was number 53 on the list. So this morning we were there when one of the members from the health directorate came and then queue us. So when he called us and we came, he didn't even use the list. He told us who and who wanted Ada East and Ada West. That was what he said. So you know there are more districts in the Accra. So we didn't know. So those that wanted raised their hands and then he called them. So later on he said the district Ministry of Health giving is only 30. So therefore they are going to take only 30 people. So he called some of them and then they came. So when they came, Ada East, he had 25 and then Ada West, he had 5. So that was what he told us earlier, that if he mentioned a district and then you don't like that district, you wait. When he mentioned another district and then that's your preferred district, then you raise up your hand. So we were thinking he will mention more of the districts for us to choose our preferred district. So later on when he mentioned Ada East and then Ada West, that was how he ended it and said he had his 30 members posting to Ada East and Ada West. So the rest of us, we should go home. So we have nothing to say.
Well, Stanley, listen, we see some of the nurses with their children and babies. What are their conditions there?
So pathetic, because some of these nurses came to sleep at the health directorate yesterday. Others too came in at dawn because they were, according to them, they were told that first come, first serve. So they did everything to be there early in the morning. But as I speak, they have had to leave the premises so disappointed. And I must also say that the Ghana Health Service, in collaboration with the Ministry of Health, actually opened the portal to employ some 6,000 nurses who have been at home. So out of this figure, they gave the regions quota. And so Greater Accra had the opportunity to employ only 122 out of the 6,000 employment needed. And so out of the 122, this 122 encompasses all categories of nurses, which include enrolled nurses, midwives, general nursing, and nursing officers. So all these category of nurses that I have mentioned must find space in this 122. So only 30 was allocated for enrolled nurses. So on Wednesday and Thursday, midwives and then general nursing personnel are also supposed to report at the regional health directorates in Accra to also go through the system, which the situation that occurred today is expected to recur.
Very well. Let's take a listen, Stanley, to the Ghana Health Service.
We cannot put all of you within Greater Accra Central. Okay. If you say you wanted to come and work in Greater Accra, know that Greater Accra is not just 2, 3, 4 districts. Then again, we look at the staff ratio, the attendance, that is the workload and the staff that we need to place them there. So for now, as a region, our priority where we lack staff is Ada East, Ada West. Okay. That was what we said. If you think you want to go and work there, you will just come and write your name and we'll post you. That you go home. So we get directive from headquarters.
Sure. No, so when you open the portal the first time, you are not
Stanley, thank you so much for reporting. Stanley Niblewu is our correspondent on the ground as some nurses struggle to find a place of work from the 2020 year group. You're still live here on News Central. We'll take a quick breather. When we come back, we'll bring you stories from your election command center.
Reminder, we are your election command center. We're starting this afternoon's spot checks from the Ashanti region, where the Convention People's Party is asking Ghanaian electorates to give it a chance to bring the country back on track in achieving a developed status. Presidential candidate of the party, Nana Frimpoma Sapon Kumenkuma, says the party is committed to empowering the youth and women to realize the desired growth and achieve economic prosperity. My colleague Ibrahim Abubakar is joining us with a bit more from the Ashanti region, where she's begun touring. Let's touch base with Ibrahim right now and get details from him. Ibrahim, talk to us. First spot check in the Ashanti region for the CPP. What's the reception been like? Ibrahim, let's try one more time. If you can hear me now, I'm asking what the reception has been like for Madame Frimpoma Kumenkuma.
Well, it's been massive, especially at the various market places where she has visited. In fact, for those areas, almost all the presidential candidates who have come there have received massive reception. And she is just engaging them one-on-one. You know, the Convention People's Party launched their manifesto just last week, Thursday. So they are now doing the one-on-one engagement with the market people and also other electorates, so that they will tell them what they have in stock for them. In an event, they are giving the chance to rule Ghana, what they have for women and the youth in general. So she has been touring some of the places and intends to go to many more constituencies after she's done with visiting market women at the Central Market, Racecourse Market, and other places. But basically, she was talking about the manifesto, saying it is focused on the youth and women in the country, and they intend empowering farmers and also bringing about industrialization in the country, so that one, they will bring relief to the people of Ghana and also reduce the growing unemployment in the country. Let's listen to what she has been telling me briefly.
It is very clear that the women of this country have gotten enough. They know clearly that where the nation is moving them is not the best. And as well. So for us, our policy of the Women's Manifesto, that is focusing on industries, making sure that we bring back the industries to Ghana, because that is what it is. We are going to make sure that every farmer is empowered. Just as we buy the cocoa, once you plant your produce, whether it is your plantain, your cassava, your okra, AgroSure will buy from you. All these what they call 30% post-harvest losses are going to be a thing of the past under the Convention People's Party. So we are going to use the Ghanaian produce to set up basic systems, industries that would feed us, and then be able to export. This is the Osagyefos Party. This is the Convention People's Party. We are there for the welfare of people. We are there for the developmental agenda of the people. Basic. And that is what we are doing. Number 7, the woman in the middle, the only woman, Obana, Monswabano, na Oba Enfa, enipa yie, enipa ehudo, ema mebu omino, na emino, enye ema yenina.
So Ibrahim, quite interesting what she says. What's the plan in the region, how she's going about seeking to canvass for vote in the stronghold of the governing New Patriotic Party?
Well, so she will be in Ashanti region for 3 days. From the market, she will also be meeting artisans at Swami Magazine. Then she will begin with a house-to-house campaign. She says, no more rally, no more big platform. She wants to send the message down to the people there. So she will be following them from their homes and campaign and tell them the message. Then after 3 days, she will move to Ahafo and Bono, where she will spend some few days, then make a return in the Ashanti before she goes back to the Greater Accra region. Now, today has been a busy day for almost all the political parties here in the Ashanti region. Just some few minutes ago, I saw the presidential candidate for the New Patriotic Party also moving. We have also Alan Kojo Tremantin also in the region, also campaigning. Then some national executives of the National Democratic Congress also in the region campaigning. So it appears that 3.2 million votes that we have in the Ashanti region, almost
it's
all the
seriously up for grabs.
Want to have a bite in it before
right.
they also look at their stronghold. So it's been a busy day for all the political
and perhaps learning from that, I want to just briefly pick your thoughts as to how the indigents in the region are reacting to the heavy political activity there right now. You've mentioned about 4 of the political parties, all in the region, Kumasi to be specific. How are the people reacting to all of this?
Well, mixed reaction. While some appear excited because they are now beginning to fuel the political atmosphere, others too are indifferent because for them, they know that this time will come and political parties will be chasing them from their home. So others, you talk to them, they will tell you they've already decided on who to vote for. So from now to voting time, no or nothing can change their decision. But others too, you could clearly see that 1 or 2 promises can easily change their decision on who to vote for on December 7. We know we have some few days left.
Right,
and the campaign atmosphere has intensified here.
Right then, Ibrahim, as always, appreciate your time. That's my colleague Ibrahim Abubakar from the Ashanti region, but we will stay with politics.
Indeed, and on the campaign trail. Now, Ghana's problems has largely, Ghana's problems have largely been because the NPP administration has refused to take responsibility. The words of John Mahama as he commenced his campaign of the Eastern region. Speaking in the Nsawam Adwejiri constituency, the former president said the posturing of the NPP to shift responsibility makes it unfit to solve Ghana's problems.
One of the first principles in leadership is taking responsibility. Taking responsibility. The negative thing about this Akufo-Addo government is that they never accept responsibility. If anything is going wrong, it is somebody's fault. Intimfie naya yesha se omoba abaimu. Se bibia enkoya yase Mahama. Se bibia enkoya yase Mahama. Se bibia enkoya yase Mahama. And I start to about 2020. Na afuno bia yes but Mahama ofi abanmu enfie 9 bibia enkoya mo se Mahama. And afi almost you. And enya Mahama biom.
Komla Kluche is traveling with John Dramani Mahama. He's joined us via Zoom for a bit more from the campaign trail. Komla, good afternoon to you. Tell us where you are and what you can report.
Well, we just left the Nsawam graduate constituency. John Mahama is currently in the Yensuano constituency. One of the seats being held by the NDC, you will recall that Yensuano in 2020 was held, or before 2020 was held by the NPP, but slipped to the NDC, and the NDC is hoping that they would turn the whole Yensuano green. Nsawam graduate already blew that the NPP, but John Mahama will be doing about 9 constituencies today. We started from the Nsawam graduate constituency, going all the way to Chedi, and we will be doing the hometown of His Excellency the President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. Then later we'll be ending in the New Jordan South constituency. But the sticking point has to do with, like you played a short while ago, the responsibility that the government should take. And he deems it fit to state to the people that if Dr. Bawumia has been a part of the problem, which has not accepted responsibility, then there's absolutely no way he offers leadership or he can offer leadership to the people. But then, John Mahama has equally been saying that the voting in some 19 days is going to be one of a communal labor. He's charging the people to come out in their numbers. The NPP has absolutely nothing to offer the people, he says, and that he is coming back, and the 4 years that he has will show a difference in terms of what leadership is and in terms of what service to the people is.
Very well, Komla. We'll leave it here. Thank you so much for talking to us. Komla Kluche is traveling with the NDC flag bearer, John Dramani Mahama.
From the camp of the NDC to that of the governing New Patriotic Party, where its flag bearer, Dr. Mahama Bawumia, says the free SHS program has ensured Ghana be ranked as the second best country with quality education. Addressing stakeholders comprising chiefs, clergy and the Muslim clerics at Nshaisu in the Ashanti region, Dr. Bawumia said the free SHS has also increased enrollment.
It's not about party, it's not about where you are, it's about what you need. And yes, so those no Ghana for baby. I hear me then say, we are saying the whole world, Ghana is the leading medical drone delivery service in the whole world. The whole world. Since in the UK, Omobeshe has a pilot to see the use of drones and their medical services. Now, yet they planting for food and jobs so by. You be a quiet man will be a man of same member.
Dr. Bawumia speaking through policies of the current administration, medical drones and planting for food and jobs. He will take us on to our very second break for you here on NewsCentral. Return with touching base with the Black Stars of Ghana, who have a game later today at 4 p.m. Not a lot of excitement, but we'll preview that game for you shortly.
Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Bawumia, #1 on the ballot.
I'm a Ghanaian and I love luxury accredited faith. And I love democracy.
December 7th, Ghana is voting.
Only peace. Peace, I give it to you all.
I love Ghana.
Peaceful election. Before, during, and after.
One Ghana.
Peace! Peace to everybody.
One Ghana. Ghana Bakumpe.
This message brought to you from the Luxury Accredited Faith.
Champion!
They are all the same.
Me I fear about to angasa my madrin cemento.
Men kasada. Omunyina ya trofo. Utete parties ni nyina. No this is your papa and also dinechi. Papa we.
Medindi Kofi Afan. I'm the leader and founder of the Liberal Party, LPG.
No didn't say papa. I be brought this generation, the next generation. Now let me tell you the vision of this man.
Na me adom number be president. Akolabia wo Ghana bia. Be pianeka. Bosum bia 500 Ghana cedis.
Hey.
This o maye naya. Bosum bia na just obi na 2000 Ghana cedis. Sa so na me be president. Omo a omo nya adwuma. If ni wotwe eko nkokora na mrewa so. Be tua omo ka 700 cedis.
Hey, let me tell me some kra na say
university so be free.
Me I'll vote for number 5.
Madam, I feel 2024 election week. Meto abane di ama LPG. Mami posters ni bi.
O hwe krata na de to abana be number 5. Me na meto so bi. Ma share so de no so ma. To abana mami. Na to mami a me de ose eyo.
In the beginning, life feels heavy. But then hope arrives. Star 446# saves you in the Dewa Chop Money draw at 10 a.m.
Congratulations.
Give your dream a chance. Even better. Like life, Dewa 539 gives another chance for those who missed their morning Chop Money draw to get lucky in the daily Dewa Rush Hour draw at 1:30 p.m.
Play every day.
And you may draw no social life. Dial star 446#. Nika Dewa 539 direct lotto no. Make this 7 o'clock and you may be
24 hours. 3 daily draws at AM, 1:30 p.m. and 7 p.m. Dewa 539 is designed to save you in the moments that matter most.
Welcome back to News Central and to that conversation involving the Black Stars of Ghana, where the road to qualification has ended, but we have that last game against Niger. Bailey Shen is with 3 Sports, has joined me in the studio. I know a lot of excitement or euphoria associated with this game. It's always almost a meaningless game for the Black Stars later at 4 p.m. today.
Yeah, it is meaningless for the Black Stars, but not as meaningless for Niger because they're still in the running to qualify for the AFCON. But if they actually beat Ghana, I believe it will be an even bigger disaster because of that hairdryer that Keto Kreku gave to the players, basically trying to say that 5 players from Niger can't even enter his team. So he doesn't rate Niger that much. And I'm sure a lot of Ghanaians do not rate Niger that much. But it is a reality that they can
Niger beat Sudan by 4-0, a team we couldn't score against. And so what's the basis of this confidence? And he's been saying a lot over the last few hours in the lead up to this game, comparing his training and origins as to being trained by Klopp and all of that. What's all of that about?
I mean, he's just trying to be defiant because a lot of people have called for his head, called for his sacking. And of course, we expect that Wednesday, the executive committee would have a meeting and the Black Stars is on top of the agenda. It could result in him being sacked or him staying for a longer haul. But him basically talking about his training and what he's gone through is just basically telling the fans that, hey, you are going to bash me, but I'm still here. I'm still the man for the job. And I believe that I can take the Black Stars back to where they have been in the past.
And quickly on the game today, we hear reports of a number of players picking up knocks. Jordan, are you not expected to be in the squad and the likes? It's looking more and more like a very depleted squad in the lead up to that last game.
Yeah, a very, very depleted one. It's not just Jordan. Fatawu Isahaku won't be around. Ali Duseidu won't be around. Gideon Mensah won't be around. And so all those 4 players have actually been replaced by 3 local-based players. One of them is Jerry Afriye, who won the Top Scorer Award and Best Player Award in the Under-20 Wafu Zone B Championship. There's Kamaradini Mahmudu, who is of Mediama. There's also Ebenezer Aban, who is of Heart of Lion. So the local contingent has basically increased. And so it would be the time for Otuado to possibly experiment with the team, give a lot of people some minutes and see how they progress.
Bill, thank you for those details. That's my colleague, Bailey Shen, who's providing a bit more details there for us in what is the last game for the Black Stars in the AFCON qualifiers. Before we end the show, though, let's bring you this interesting infographic obtained from The Economist about which countries have the most educated politicians. Let's try and take a look. Ghana is number 7 out of what? A number of countries which were polled with the most educated legislators. And so our MPs are up there in the world as one of the most educated. I know what you could be thinking, and I know the sort of questions you want to be asking while you're watching at home. But your MPs are part of the smartest the world over. And so that's the latest in terms of what it is. Thoughts on that? You want to keep it sealed?
No, I do not have thoughts on this, but yeah, we'll take it as a win.
Well, a feather in our cap. That's our bulletin for you this afternoon. Came to you from our studio here on the John Hammond Street. As always, Mawena Igbeta. But please do follow us on Instagram, 3news.gh. That's where you catch all things newsworthy from us here at TV3, 3FM, and all of our media general platforms.
Well, I am Kemeni Amano. You stay on for the afternoon show. He comes up right after us. Bye-bye.